It's 12 o'clock in Frisco, Texas, and it's time for Smoker Broker Radio with Robert Mesh, a.k.a. the Smoker Broker. Robert is the owner of Small World Realty and has employed hundreds of real estate agents in his 17-year career. He has instructed and mentored over 10,000 real estate agents at the highly acclaimed Champions School of Real Estate and is considered an expert in Texas residential realty. Robert is also an advocate of true entrepreneurial spirit and has helped many to transition from corporate America into the world of self-employment. And now live from the studio to your world, the Smoker Broker.
Hey, welcome to Smoker Broker. I'm Robert Mesh, and I'm the guy they call Smoker Broker. You won't find too many of us out there. Professional barbecue guy, broker, real estate broker, odd combination, but it works. Lots of people like it. Lots of people remember it. Lots of people like barbecue. What's a better place to be a smoker broker than in the great state of Texas? That is an absolute fact. Barbecue is awesome. That's why I got into it. I loved it. It's a great pastime. And quite honestly, it's actually a good thing for your business too. It builds your business. You actually gain clients. Business is all about your networking, the groups that you're with, the people that you're with, and something like barbecue and any other type of events you like are very good ways to get people together and having people know what you do and what it is that you're capable of. So love having it. Love the people who know me by that name. It is a name that's known when it comes to the type of brokerage that we run and the things that we do. And I like to try to keep that a very positive name out there because I think it's something that we want people to be able to come to when it comes to teaching and learning, understanding real estate, that they know that that's a very friendly name that will show them how to do that stuff. Happy Thursday. Hope all is going well. We are cruising on. September is literally a week away, or actually at the end of this weekend, I believe. And we're back into football. Football's back into. It's funny how the schools, the high schools, the colleges, and the professionals, how they're having to battle with the resurgence of COVID, because I think they all felt they were in the clear, and they opened it up, and they're like they have visions of it going back to normal, and boy, did they have to slam the brakes on. I mean, did they literally come to a halt? So 2 stadiums in the news in the past week. The New Orleans Saints. I'm being biased. I use the one because I get all their stuff and I know it. But the Louisiana Superdome is requiring vaccination if you are going to enter the Superdome. That's 78,000 people and then some most of the time. And they're going to have to show that they were vaccinated. That'll be fun watching a bunch of Cajuns have to do that. We'll see how that works out.
I feel like you need all kinds of vaccines just to go into that Superdome anyway.
Yeah. Why? Why is it that is a great point.
Now they're concerned?
Only Louisiana would have a mandatory vaccine where people have gone to the bathroom for years inside. God knows what type of diseases are in there.
Yeah.
And they're mandatory vaccination for COVID. That's a good one. More, I'm not going to say relevant as much as interesting because of the age of it. It's so weird to say too, the Las Vegas Raiders, they have mandatory, they have gone to mask. You will have a mask on in the new stadium. You got to feel, not that anybody ever feels for the Raiders, but you have to feel the fact that they built that stadium in COVID and nobody was able to go into it. Now they finally can go into it, and now they're putting the brakes on again. I mean, it's so hard to see it because it's just such a lifetime event you would have never predicted. And I think we're doing great with adapting. I really do. You say what you want about the world and people, which they usually are pretty lousy, but I think we've done it as good as we can in adjusting. Now, some people are like, bullshit, look at how many people are dying and how many people don't have masks. And that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about for the majority of the people in this world, whether they do or do not do, their life has changed and they've had to adapt to it one way or another. It's kind of amazing in this day and age that we can't expect something like that. You would think we have a good grasp on what our concerns are, what our worries are, and what's going to happen. That's just one that we never saw coming last year. We certainly, a lot of people say we knew the second wave was coming. We all knew that, but we looked at it more as well, we're vaccinated, it's not a problem. And that's obviously not. Now the problem is it's more severe. CDC came out last week and stated now a third booster is needed. God bless the freaking CDC. Good Lord. And look, I said last week that I don't like being political. So this one might come off as political, but on this one, I don't care. Because to me, it doesn't matter whether you're Republican, you're Democratic. That damn CDC, whatever's coming out of there, it is so contradictory. They contradict themselves every other week. Now, professionals would say, yeah, but it's difficult. You don't know. I don't care. You have people and decisions and lives that are being affected. They go off and they say, you have to get this vaccination that half the country didn't want or were scared of. So they finally get them to do that, which was begrudgingly because they still haven't done them all. And then they're like, you're going to need a third one too. Great. What about the ones that haven't get the damn first one done? And then they come out. We think there's 21 variants. Christ.
21 boosters, baby.
Shots in the arm?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the CDC's tough. That came out last week. And the adaptation of what we're going to do with that'll be funny. How we go through. So you got a lot of, it's funny. We all said that last year, what is the new norm? And then we got to where we thought we were at the end of COVID. We're like, maybe we are not going to have a new norm. Maybe it is going to return to normalcy. And I think some of us were even shocked that we were going to get to a new normalcy. But you know what? We do have a new normalcy. The new normalcy now is the unexpected. What will a certain virus do? What will it not do? One thing's for sure, and we might have mentioned this a couple weeks ago, sometimes I get my team meetings confused with my radio shows, but one thing's for sure now, no matter what happens, mass places of gatherings and public transportation, the airlines, buses, trains, you better believe you're in that mask for a long time. They were supposed to end that. The federal mandate for the mask was supposed to end in September. They've already extended it well into next year. And you better believe it's probably never going to change. I think some people will insist that the masks are on in those closed confined places. I don't think they'll ever ask. I think you'll even get to where if they lifted it, they wouldn't do it during flu season, which might not be the worst idea. It's funny. Well, it's not funny, but nobody talks about the flu anymore. The flu sucks. The flu really sucks.
Flu kills more people anyways, in general.
It does. It does. So it's amazing that we're so hung up on COVID, which we should be, because and I think even more so now, even the people that are like, I told you I could get through it. Now they're laying in a bed. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't have celebrated, Even they are like, it's a different type of beast, but flu still sucks. And we weren't very good at sanitizing there. So maybe there are some applications that are better than others, but
one of the positives, if you want to find some sort of silver lining, is, or at least it seemed last year, is that if anybody was concerned that they were slightly ill, they wouldn't go out, right? And that's always just bugged me when, you're around people and they're like, hey, sorry, man, I got the flu. Like, why are you out? Stay home. Don't spread that.
It's a terrible
thing you can do.
It's a terrible problem in the world. And it's terrible because some of them can't help it, because if they have a low-paying job and they don't get sick days, which you want to get deep. If you want to get deep, you really start talking about the corporations. There should be things in place. Now, the other side of it is, then every lazy person from here to kingdom come always say they were sick. There's ways to prove people are sick. And if someone truly is sick, they should not have to fear losing their $4.80 or whatever shift because some greedy corporate person said it had to be like that. And that is terrible, but you are right.
They take their sick kid to daycare, and then that kid gets all their family. That's the worst.
Yeah, honestly, that's where the start of it is. It's the kids that carry it. they're the ones that touch everything and gross
Sure.
and then it ends
Parasites.
up in our house, So there's a lot of truth to that. And maybe there has been some improvement. I see people in public cough now, which that used to irritate me when someone would cough with no, like they do an open air cough, no cover or anything. I'm like, where the hell were you born and raised?
Louisiana?
Probably. Probably. But it's obviously a different world that we're going into, and we're learning how to interact with it day to day. We had a big opening last week about the how the politics are affecting the real estate market, and today I'm going to kind of really cut that short because I want to get into the MLS side of it. I will tell you one thing that's important about current events, the market as it sits. It does appear that it's stabilizing. We do think that it's starting to slow just a bit, which is the greatest news that we've heard in a long time. Everybody looks at us weird when we say that. I'm like, it's good. I was talking to one of my peers yesterday, and he runs a similar podcast as well. He made an interesting comment. He said, oh yeah, it's definitely putting the brakes on. He goes, but it'll fire back up in the spring again. I go, I haven't been saying that. He goes, it will. I go, I don't know. I go, but it's an interesting perspective that you have there. I hadn't heard that one yet. So he thinks it's pausing, but it'll pick back up again. So I was like, interesting. I'll have to look at that. Nonetheless, we are looking at a current environment that's pausing, which means to you, you have to be careful when you're doing your negotiations. Make sure you're going through your senior management or your mentors when you're doing your offers, because they might be changing week to week right now, depending on what we're at. All right, we're going to go back into the input data for the MLS. I usually don't like to do back-to-back shows with the same type of information because I like to keep the show very structured with different information, people coming, people wanting to hear different subjects, but sometimes it makes sense to put the shows together, and this was one of them that we just really should just keep going with it so that you understand. We spent a lot of time in the first part of it. On this particular episode, we're going to move a lot quicker, and only on the bigger points are we going to say, hey, look, here's where we're at. So we stopped on the data input, and again, we are like at the laptop inputting our MLS. This is what we're trying to show you how to do today. We talked last week about the auto pop and how we take the information from the tax scrolls and drop it down. Well, in the location information tab, that's primarily done via the auto pop. We should not be entering anything in there. So this bottom section, and if you were in the MLS, it'd be the bottom section. It is auto-populated. You're not going to touch it. And this is actually a good takeaway here that if this section's blank and you are entering something in there, you've done something wrong. You need to stop and go back. That's a good checkpoint that if you're putting anything in here, that's a very good indicator that you did not auto-populate like you're supposed to. So great checkpoint there.
That the MLS is getting rid of area and sub-area.
Yeah, which that's fine. I still didn't understand their reasoning for it.
Because it's pointless. We don't use it anymore. We just use the map.
That's what I kind of wanted them to admit. Why was it ever there in the first place? Then you get it. Now, this one's a good one. Actually, this is a real important one.
Yep.
And if I really wanted to, we could have 2 hours of talk here, but we're not going to. So the school information, very annoying that it does not auto-populate.
Yep.
The school information does not auto-populate. Now, the reason why I find that annoying, that is one of the number one things, too, we get our asses chewed out for when either the listing agent put the schools in wrong or the buying agent didn't verify the school agents, the schools were right. Either way, we get yelled at, which is very annoying because that's not our responsibility. I mean, we want to be as right as we can and we want to be as competent as we can. But the fact is those school districts change and the schools change. And it's not my kid. It's your kid. And if you're complaining about your kid going somewhere to school and you relied on a real estate agent or a piece of paper without verifying it yourself, hey, that's too bad. I'm sorry that you thought that I was the one responsible for where your kid goes to school. All I can do is tell you what's on there or look at what I think was the most reasonable, say, I think that's where those go, and I put it in there. There is a technically correct way. Most of you should be going through there, and if you're doing this right, you call the school district, you give them the address, call the transportation department in the school district. That's where the buses go. If there's one person who knows where they go to school, it's the buses. So call the transportation department. If it's in the summer, all of the districts have a map that shows where an address goes. That's how you pick the schools. What you do not do is go to the MLS, pull up the subdivision, and look at what everybody else does, and you put that in. Sometimes you'll be like, well, that's what everybody else has. This is my mom's favorite saying, if everybody else jumped off a cliff, would you do it? I still love that to this day. It's true. So just because everybody else did it didn't mean they did it right. And it does happen at times where the first person who did it wrong, and then they all do it wrong. So don't do that either. You verify the schools.
Usually what I do is I'll just Google the Frisco ISD school lookup or school locator. And if it directly is a link on their website, on the school board's website, and you enter in the address, that's usually pretty safe. Because I can at least say, here, this is where I got it from. But I'm not going to take it from some other MLS input or just some third-party website that has no vested interest.
Plus, you're super lazy if you just rely. I mean, if you can't pick up a phone to verify schools on a $300,000 or $400,000 listing, or even $100,000 listing, that's just lazy. You just don't care. All right, so go find the schools, get it right.
Yep.
There's a lot more conversation to that on giving a school district wrong, the consequences of it, why some people need a school versus others. We're not going to talk about that today. In fact, that probably could be an entire show by itself. All right,
sounds exciting.
What's that?
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, right. Actually, it is, because the school conversation gets nasty.
So you're talking about Lake Dallas? Here we go again.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I might do that, because that is a nasty conversation. That's actually an interesting topic. So we might do that. All right, next tab, you get into room details. This is where you're actually going to, and you do manually input this. You're going to manually input things like how many bedrooms are there, how many full baths, how many half baths. Is it a 1 or a 2 story, which I still think should be auto-populated. I don't know why it should know that, but.
And it doesn't give you an option if it's a 1.5 story either, which is annoying.
Why? Why does it not do that? I still have not been given a credible answer as to why it doesn't. And that's a great takeaway from today's show too. Those of you are like, well, what do I do with the 1.5? Flip a coin.
I put 2.
Yeah. Well, see, that's funny, because I would argue the other way, that more people prefer the 1.
Sure.
But to your point,
stairs.
Yeah, if you put the 1, you get your ass chewed out. But then if you get the 2, you're like, well, I told you I could have done it. I'm like, that's, so
I'd always err on the side of caution and go the other way, just be like, there's 2 stories.
Which is why you run things, and I just oversee it. That's smart. That probably is the better way to do that. Now, there's a lot of room for error here, okay? First of all, just pure incompetence that you forget how many baths there were, full baths. Brent mentioned something last week, I think, that when it comes to him entering this part, a lot of times he has to refer back to his pictures. And that's true. A lot of times we have to look at the pictures to remember, how many bedrooms were there?
Yep.
Was there a bathroom downstairs that was half, or was it full?
I take notes as I'm walking through usually.
Yeah. Now, here's the area. Actually, before I'm going to do that, let's talk about living area and dining area. So these are subjective too, because you can look at a dining area several different ways. Of course, a dining room would definitely be considered dining, which is hypocritical because most people never eat in the dining room. Right? The breakfast nook is the real dining area, even though it's not called that. And a lot of people don't even use that. A lot of people just eat on the breakfast bar. Yep. So it's hard to sometimes say what is the actual dining area. Most of us believe the dining area is, in fact, the breakfast nook where there's space, and the actual dining room if there is one. If it doesn't have a dining room, there's one dining area, which is the nook. If there is a dining area and a nook, it's 2. Living areas is very subjective. Living areas, the response there was any room that wasn't inside of a bedroom or a bathroom, meaning if it's the family room, is it the den, is it a game room, is it a media room? All those are technically living areas. But here's the catch. and this is confusing, they have game room and media room designations in there. So if you put 3 living areas, but then you also go in there and put media room, you are distorting what the actual truth of the house is, and you might actually even get in trouble.
I feel like you're specifying what those living areas are, though. One's a media,
I think
one's
the
a
best way to do it is you put the number of living areas, the total, including those, but you make it clear in your description that there is a game room. I mean, if you're not making it clear that there's a game room and a media room in the description, you're doing something wrong already. So the correct way to me is to put the number of, notice how I was looking at you directly. I think it's correct to put the number of living areas and then describe it. I don't think it's a good idea to put the living areas and then go back and say game room. And I think that's.
Well, I don't see that getting somebody sued over, because as they walk the house, they can clearly see what room is there, right? It's like,
well, they could get sued on it, but the automatic response would be, well, you walked the damn thing.
Yeah.
You know, so you're right. It would be a counter to that. All right. Now, again, long conversation that we're not going to make long, but going to make a serious point, probably the biggest takeaway in this section. We measure the inside of the house because even the appraiser doesn't measure the rooms in a report. They don't just break it down by room. They only break it down by the total. Most people want to have some idea how big certain rooms are, especially the master bedroom, the family room, the kitchen, and a lot of times even the secondary rooms for the kids. Maybe they don't want a 10 by 10. Maybe they want a 15 by 15 or something. So we have to measure. Our agents aren't taught to be contractors. They're not taught to measure. You could say, well, any moron could do it. I'm like, that's not true. I like to think I'm somewhat intelligent. I don't do very well when I measure. Those of you are like, how hard is it to use a tape measure? I'm like, well, the first thing is we don't use a tape measure because they're too long.
I used to when I first got into it. I did.
Yeah, I did too. We use sound beams and laser beams. And if you're like, well, how hard is that? Well, a lot of the modern day buildings are open floor plans. So it's hard to say, did the kitchen start here? Did the family room start here? Especially if the flooring's the same. The ones that are really difficult are where the nook is built into the kitchen. So you're like, well, where's the breakfast nook? Is it included in the kitchen? I can almost promise you, anytime there's a nook in the kitchen the same, it's done wrong. They don't do it right. If you were really doing it right, you would actually measure the nook itself, and then you would subtract that square feet from the kitchen.
I'm not going to. I'm not a registered appraiser. I'm not a licensed appraiser, Robert. I don't do that. I'm just a guy.
Here's the terrible problem, and it's the obvious. If someone calls you out on your measurements, we're responsible for those measurements. And they could make a case that we had a competency issue, or worse, that we intentionally did it because we wanted the house to look bigger than it was. Okay? All terrible things.
And on the measurements, you have to round up or round down, which is like, so how accurate do they want us to be? You can't put 14 feet, 8 inches. You've got to round up or round down.
And the bottom line is it's very subjective. The best advice we can tell you is be as close as you can. Do not add the extra. Always be more conservative. Like, for instance, if you have a family room that has an entryway and the family room kind of extends into that entry, but it's just a small, so you have the wall here, but there's only a little piece that goes like this, and then it's all the way here. Don't measure from this way back. Measure to where the real room starts. Don't take advantage of little things that you could say, well, technically, there is no technically. They want to know what the main size of that room was. So lots of issues here. We could talk forever about it. We're not going to. We wanted to give you that heads up because it's an important piece of it. So you start getting into, if you listed rooms, common sense should dictate that you have to describe what's in the rooms. And this is what we call the feature section. So they're going to have a feature section of these rooms, and you're supposed to say, if you put or input a room, you're supposed to say, does it have any of these things? And it gives a long list. We're not going to read all of them. I will tell you the ones that are mostly chosen. The walk-in closet, especially if it's the master bathroom, is there separate shower, separate vanities? Is there a medicine cabinet? Are there dual sinks? Is there a
So
spa?
on that, and it wasn't until I swear you laugh at me, probably 2 years ago, that I realized that you put the master bath into the master bedroom. I always did a full bath separately, and then I realized I
I
can click
don't think
ensuite bath.
I
I
don't
don't know
think
why
it
they do that.
matters. I don't
No,
think
but
it
I just don't know why they
matters.
do that. Because, the question would be, are there walk-in closets in the master bedroom? And usually, almost never no. They're always in the bathroom. That's where that closet is.
Yeah, I think it's a design issue, the way they did it. I don't think they should have designed the interest system to do it the way they did. I think it should have all flowed one way, and to make it more obvious.
Yep.
And then when you get into your, and I guess a better way to say this, the features really are for the master bed and the master bath. Few of the features are in the other rooms. You do get some walk-in closets, but separate showers are rare in the other bedrooms, secondary bedrooms. There's just way too many of those things don't exist. You certainly don't have a coffee bar. Yeah, coffee bar, cedar closet. So not so much in there.
Kitchen though.
What's that?
Kitchen.
Yeah, I was flipping through the section. Took all the. Where does it? Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, it's on. I forgot my document the way it has it. It had it on the way back. So, bedroom, secondary rooms, just like we said, features. Really, just the master we're talking about, or should we say now? What do they call it? The elite or the executory? That's it. I need to be politically correct for the guys down in Houston. They are not allowed to say master bedroom right now.
Kind of sounds like it's Houston's problem.
He doesn't mean that to the 7 million people that are in Houston. He means
I don't tell them in Houston.
The other one that causes us a little bit of making sure we're paying attention is the kitchen. The kitchen, the features are, there's some big ones. You have your granite. Do you have granite? Do you not have granite? Do you have maybe the basic Formica? Do you have hardwoods? Do you have ceramic? Do you have marble? Do you have an island? Do you have a gallery sink? Yeah, that's right. These are the big ones. Those are the ones that not only are they just necessarily big for the room, they're usually highlights to the house. Almost everybody that buys today, they're going to ask, is there granite in the house? Are there hardwoods in the house? It's a very common request. So you need to be careful that you're entering the right things here. Okay. They give a long description for the utility room. That's just ridiculous. I want to go through all that.
But I mean, usually the ones I do is just full-size washer dryer area, washer hookup, electrical dryer hookup, and that's pretty much it, unless there's a big one for freezer, fridge.
All right, and that's a good transition into the next section. So the next section is features in the entire house.
Yeah.
So you go from features in one tab to the specific rooms, which makes sense. But then it says, okay, I want to know what's in this house completely. And it literally breaks down every piece of the house, and it tells you to answer what they have. So it starts
required.
off with,
like, interior features are required. And there are some homes, Robert, I swear that there's been no features in there.
Yeah. Well, even when you do a listing where you're entering and you're struggling with that, you're like, that's not good.
Yeah.
It's very hard to sell a house.
Wait till I get to the property description. That'll be fun.
Yours, that is where you will expertise in.
Yes.
Because your regular one works perfect there.
Yep.
All right, why don't you walk them through some of the interior features?
Yeah, so I mean, like bay windows, and these are things that you need to take notes as you're walking the house and doing your measurements, because you don't want to call your seller and be like, hey, I don't remember. I mean, it happens, right? But you just want to take notes as you're going through. Okay, is there a bay window in the master usually, or in the breakfast nook? Wine cooler, not so much, but like cable TV, almost every place has that. Decorative lighting is one you can almost always check. There's almost always some sort of different type of lighting in there. Elevator, that's only in Rich's listings that she worries about. I will say, sound system wiring can be a big one, vaulted ceilings. And usually the number one thing you would put in there is window coverings. Usually somebody has some sort of blinds or something in there.
Keep on going. Yeah.
Okay. The next things we've got on there are, smart home features, which is new. This is new for the MLS. Do you have like smart locks, smart lights, video doorbells? Do you have cameras that are built into the house? You know, all these smart features they want to know. And if they're password dependent, meaning do you need to transfer that username and login to the new buyer if they come in and you're not excluding it?
This is a welcome addition to the MLS. We have said for years there's been way too many fights on whether the security system stays, whether the cameras have become very notable in all the houses. They are part of the house, and someone needs to know, is it there? What type of brand do they have? This is a very good addition to it took way too long for it to be added.
And a good note too for listing agents, just exclude them. It just makes your life way easier. Just exclude those little cameras and have them remove them. It's just way easier for you. Then we get into alarm. That's one that you miss a lot, right? As you're walking the house, you forget to ask, is there an alarm and is it leased? Because if it's leased, you know, are they taking it with them, or does the new buyer have to pay for that lease? What's the deal with that? Is it monitored? Is it a smoke alarm, or, you know, does it monitor to the fire department? All that stuff. And that stuff you usually have to reach out afterwards and say, oh, I forgot on the alarm, you know, not that big of a deal. Then we move on to the roof. Most roofs in Texas are going to be composition roof, but you need to just ask, because we've seen some that look like tile and they're actually metal. You know, so just make sure you're asking. They're not asking about how old they are, but a good thing to take away is if you have given your seller that seller's disclosure, you're going to be looking at that and seeing what they put for the type of roof, how old it is. You should know that already.
And in Texas, it's extremely important. We are the #1 hail state in the entire country. Roofs are a very big deal. Those have spent the money for a metal roof, have put a big investment into it.
Like 50
if
grand.
they do have a metal roof, they want it to be highlighted that, hey, look, I don't have to deal with the hail issues because of this. So
not too many wood shingle roofs anymore after all the fires in Deerfield.
God, no. Who's the idiot who ever decided that? That sounds good in a hot state
climate
too.
Yeah, let's put dry.
I remember when I was young. So our first house was in Plano, like Little House on the Prairie. There was nothing there back then, and I remember when we were younger, where the firefighters would come to the house in the middle of the night because a house on the block was on fire, and because it just torched so fast because of the heat and the wood, they would literally have to go to the houses that were close and not only wake you up, but wet the houses down. It was actually kind of traumatic when you were younger, but it was because of the wood shingles.
Wow. Jeez. Then we move into kitchen equipment. That's another thing you really got to take note of, right? I'm going to say most of the common ones you'd see in there, you need to take note of what type of oven/range is in there, right? Is it a slide-in range? Is it a drop-in range? Is it gas? Is there, you'll have to know later, is the kitchen plumbed for gas? You need to know all that stuff. Is it a convection oven? And those are things that you won't necessarily know from looking. You need to ask while you're in it. You know, most of them, they're going to have a dishwasher. Most are going to have a disposal. You know, some of the ones, they have the washer dryer inside the kitchen. A little strange, but they have that. And then the other one is water line to the fridge. And a lot of times you can't see. So you might want to take a peek behind the fridge and see if there's a water line there, or just ask the seller. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Pool on property. Yes or no. Is there a pool on property? And guys, to note, a lot of these, when you check yes, then it's going to make the next group of checkboxes mandatory. So if you say it's pool on property, yes, then you have to put down the details about that. Is it an above ground pool? Does it have a spa? Is there a cabana? Only in Rich's houses. You know, is there a diving board? Is it heated? Blah, blah, blah. All that stuff about the pool you need to include. Handicap is kind of a weird one, because if it's not specifically handicapped, that's something that I would have to ask on, because, you know, they have their own regulations as far as, like, is there, you know, can they get into the house with a wheelchair? Is there special accommodations for them to get into a tub or a shower? Most of the time it's no. And then if it is handicapped, you have to write down the amenities that are available for that said individual.
Yeah, I'll take a few for you too. So you get in the flooring. Flooring usually is pretty obvious, whether it's carpet, or you think it's obvious. If it's carpet, if it's tile. But one of the biggest problems in the flooring is the way people identify wood flooring.
Yes.
A lot of what people think is wood flooring is not. A lot of time it's a laminate cover. True wood flooring, the way this thing's written, is where they literally cut the tree, skinned it, and put the wood down and sanded it and stained it. That is a real wood floor.
Nail down or hand scraped. Yep.
That's right. But bolted in down in there. Now, you can have a lot of them that are engineered that the top is real wood. And actually, these are more expensive. But the bottom is not. And this creates a little bit of subjectivity when you're entering. And I would get many brokers who would differ with this result. If it's a wood finish on the top, I'll call it a wood floor. Even though I know the difference between the two, the general public is not asking, is it a real wood floor? They're asking, is it wood from the appearance side of it?
Yep.
That's my opinion. And anybody's welcome to call me out at some point.
Well, there's no other option. You can't put engineered wood. There's no option for that.
No, but you can put, some people would argue that it should be the laminate. Yeah. And it's not. Because the glaze is a laminate. And that's just not true to me. So I will tell you too, those of you who don't know much about floors, a lot of people gawk about having real wood floors. Real wood floors suck. Real wood floors buckle and they squeak, and you can't just take the plank out and easily put it back in. I say this because I have a huge great room that is, I wish I had never done it real hardwood. I wish it was engineered because it wears a lot better. But that's one of those things you're not told until you do it too late. So I don't like the real wood at all. If you drop any standing water that comes into the house, like from a storm or something, it buckles. Now the engineer does too, but not near as bad. And the replacement's almost impossible when you're trying to match them. Let's see. Garage spaces and car sport and garage spaces, those are always fun. Guarantee the number one item that is mismeasured, the garage. Most of the time out of laziness. Yeah, they forgot. Most garages are 18 by 20. A standard garage is an 18 by 20. It's 20 on the length and it's 18 on the width for a 2-car garage. But a lot of the houses don't have 2-car garages anymore. And very few of us hit to the third or the fourth, or it's 2 on one side and 1 on the other. And we don't add them together. So we end up making them up. So there's probably a little bit of room for some improvement. They probably should change that to where you don't measure it, but you make a comment as secondary workshop. So someone can say, well, it has a workshop in it. It's got to be big enough.
Well, you know what's funny is that what confuses me is after you put in the garage spots, this thing under the parking feature, I still don't know which one to put. Is it 2-car double doors or is it 2-car single doors? Does that mean there's one single door for both, or is it 2? You know what I mean? It kind of contradicts itself.
Oh, well, yeah. Let's see, 2-car double, 2-car single. Yeah, it is telling you to distinguish. If you have a 2-car garage and it's 1 door, it wants to know that the double door, it's a double bay, but it's 1 door. That is confusing.
Yeah. And
it's important because surprisingly, I've had a lot of clients who comment on, hey, I need to know if there's a bridge, if there's a brick in the middle. I can't stand that thing, and I can't get my truck in there. These are Texas problems, and they can't get their truck, so they'll put that in there. Okay, God, we hadn't done this one in so long. Even on my own estimates, wow, there's a lot of stuff because we're out of time. Well, at least I am. I've got an interview and we need to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and let Brent talk about our sponsors super quick. And I'm going to do an obvious summary here that look how much data we're talking about. We just went through a 40 to 45 minute session on top of a 45-minute session last week. And we're literally in the half part of the input. So we will do this again. I'm not going to do it next week or the week after because that gets boring. But we'll come back to this. I always note down where we stopped we'll come back to this particular show because there's still a lot that needs to be done in there. But that just shows you how informative all these things are that you need to know. All right, Brent, hit them with our sponsors.
Yep. All right, our first guy is Martin Cooley with BPG Inspections. He is our go-to guy that we refer our clients to. We, of course, always give them a choice of inspectors to choose from, but Martin is the guy that we know and trust, and he's a great-looking guy. He's always on time or early. He always, when I schedule with him, he gets done very quickly, but very thoroughly. He's always there to talk your client through, the issues that he saw, and he has a nice, good bedside manner. He color codes all his inspection reports, red for things to look at, that are urgent, and blue for things that aren't too big of a deal. You can always reach him at bpginspections.com or call him at 817-401-3240. That's Martin Cooley with BPG Inspections. And our second sponsor is Greg Holberg with Liberator Health Insurance. Your simple solution to affordable healthcare is here. Join the Liberator movement and take control of your healthcare. Customize your healthcare plan to fit your healthcare and budget needs. Use any doctor or hospital without a penalty, in or out of network. Teledoc is included at all plans. No annual deductibles and no copay. The deal of the week: a 54-year-old single parent with a 23-year-old daughter got a great plan for $460 a month. As an independent agency, Liberator is committed to transforming healthcare in Texas through innovative healthcare plans that are affordable and rich in benefits. For more information and to get a quick quote, call or text Greg Holberg, independent health insurance broker, at 214-886-4688, or visit them at liberatorhealthinsurance.com.
Guys, can't thank y'all enough for always tuning in. Again, wasn't the greatest flair this particular topic, but once we get through with it, the information is terribly needed. On anybody who's brand new especially, this should have been very helpful for you. Most people do not go through that type of detail on your MLS input. So hopefully you enjoyed that. We're always trying to give you something that is worth your while. And I know for a fact, if you're new, that's something that will help you a great deal, because it's something that we don't talk about as much as we should. So hope you enjoyed that. Pass it on to anybody else. Certainly if you're a regular watcher, make sure you always tell everybody why you watch and why it's important to you, because we love the continued views and the people that continue to get other people to watch the show as well. So we always thank you for that. I don't know if it's going to be Labor Day. I always get confused if Labor Day is if it's the first or it's the next. I think this year it's not the first and the second. I think it's the following week for some reason. But whichever one, happy
September
Labor Day.
6th.
Yeah, that's right. So it's the next. It's not. So
yeah, we got another week.
September this week here, but Labor Day is the following. So I was going to say, enjoy your Labor Day weekend. But that's actually going to be another week, and we are officially heading into. Well, in Texas, the fall doesn't start till the end of October, if it ever starts. But for most people, they're heading into the fall, back into the new school year. And we'll see what this fall has to bring for the housing market, the COVID, and everything else that we have to deal with. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll talk to you guys soon.